next author is Cheryl J. Heser, author of Walking at the Speed of Light, Reflections for Following Jesus in Grief and Joy. This is a perception offering of a memoir and reflections that provides insight and healing in all kinds of darkness. How are you today? So lovely to see you.
I'm so grateful to be here.
We're happy to have you. Yes, absolutely. What inspired you to write this book?
5 years ago this fall, my youngest son died in a rollover car accident. He was 33 years old. He was a major light in many lives, including, of course, my husband's and mine. I suffered from unbelievable grief, which spiraled into extreme depression. When I finally came to the point where I began to emerge from that, it was because of the realization that the only real antidote to darkness is light. And that the light that I had grown up with, and the only real reliable light, is the light of the world. And so that gave birth to the idea for this book. The book begins with a memoir, but that's a short part of the book, Josh's death and my journey through depression. But the majority of the book is short chapters of reflection based on different aspects of light. An example would be nurturing people in our lives who are like stained glass because they're people whom the light shines through.
I love that. So what is the purpose of the book?
A dear friend of mine was a major factor in Alcoholics Anonymous in our part of Montana. And he said to me one time, when we use what we have learned on our journey to help other people, then God's grace flows not only into their lives, but back into our lives as well. And that became the purpose. The idea is to give people some ideas that will help them cope with grief and depression, and also the encouragement to do so.
And Cheryl, how have you grown as an author?
Well, and I'm going to go back for just a minute and say, I should have said a little bit more about purpose. The second purpose is to encourage people to grow in their faith and find their own resilience to go on and to cope with things like the kind of loss that I experienced. And finally, a purpose. Josh was an organ donor, and I'm an advocate for Life Center Northwest Organ Donation Center. And at one of their gatherings, we actually listened through a stethoscope to our son's heart beating in another man's chest.
Wow.
And it had given him okay. And
how have you grown as an author through all of this?
Well, I was for many, many years a poet on the side. I was at first a teacher and then a library director. When I retired from the library director position, I went back to school to get my master's degree in creative writing. That had been a long time dream. And I was sure that that was mostly to enhance what I did with poetry. Well, I found myself with an open space and took a course called Flash Nonfiction. And it just opened up my world. I discovered that I could use the poetic language and techniques that I knew, but apply them to nonfiction, and that became the way to write this book.
That's incredible. And for our viewers at home, how can they get in contact with you? How can they connect?
I have a website, CherylJHeser.com, and please, Heser, H-E-S-E-R, even though it's not pronounced that way, so CherylJHeser.com, and it does include my blog, and I also have Cheryl J. Heser author website or place on Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Cheryl. Congratulations on the book.